Hi, this is Birkholzer from Mindful Connection with a little bit of horse logic. So today I want to talk about how our horses explore their environment. So I know for sure when I first met Shana, down there, the gray Arabian you might see, she came to me as a 1-year-old and she was always extremely exploratory with her feet. She would come to a new spot somewhere in the pasture or in the barn and she would always use her front feet to explore it and to tap it and to pull something maybe towards her. She would also do that if I actually sit somewhere, she does it actually still today, somewhere near her in the pasture, in the barn. She will come up to me and she will use her leg to tell me she wants something from me. Now Kata, on the other hand, our Palomino quarter horse down there, is totally different. He never uses his feet. He always uses his mouth to explore everything. His little muzzle, and is always nuzzling and exploring and playing with things. He opens doors. When my father comes to work and helps out on the barn and has a drill, Cutter's always right in there with his nose. So horses have different ways of exploring their environment. And it's a very natural thing for horses to explore their environment, because when you think about it, especially if they live out in the wild, they always have to smell and feel and taste to see what their surrounding is like to make sure that they are safe. Now, interestingly enough though, when we actually start working with horses, what we call working with horses, riding them, training them, we actually inhibit all that exploratory discovery for horses. So let's just say, right, you're on the trail ride and you're out riding along and your horse all of a sudden stops and goes, I don't know if a horse has ever done that with you. Possibly not, because it has been trained out of him, so to speak. But I've been on horses that would suddenly stop and go, or they would stop and stare at something in the distance where you would say, oh my God, what is in the back there? And usually we as riders, what do? We encourage the horse to move on and not to stop and explore and smell, because we have this perceived notion that a horse, is always a flight animal and therefore he's going to smell or look and then take off. I don't think that's true. If you actually explored that yourself a little bit with your horse, you might realize that your horse is just, as long as it's not a bee, that your horse is actually just taking in a new change in the environment, right? There's a new smell coming his way or her way. There's a new sight. The horse obviously might see some deer in the back moving when you haven't even paid any attention to it. So it's really kind of an interesting thing to go with your horse into this exploration rather than interrupt it, because first of all, you can learn something, and second of all, you're not taking a natural skill away from your horse. So this comes also into play when we bring a horse to a new place. Let's just say you're taking your horse to a new trail, or you're taking your horse to a barn to do a riding lesson or something like that. If you pay close attention, and if your horse is not overly muted down, I want to call it, your horse most likely will be like, oh, what's over there? Or start sniffing the ground, or try to go somewhere to take a look at a fence, or obviously meet horses, right? That's always a natural one. And though I understand we don't want our horse to go nose to nose with strange horses and all that stuff, there are, however, opportunities to allow your horse to see where he's at, instead of just having to arrive and shut everything down about his environment and just you get to work, or go on your ride or have a lesson. The horse actually would like to see where he's at and get a sense of the environment. And this is a great opportunity to actually say to him, oh, where do you want to go? Or with your mare, be like, what are you curious about? And kind of follow the horse along. Now this becomes really important, and we're up in the ante here, when you're moving your horse to a new place. And a lot of the cases I work on where horses all of a sudden show undesired behaviors, unexplainable behaviors, where the owner is like, oh my God, I don't know, why is he or she doing this all of a sudden, often has to do with that the environment the horse is in is not really familiar with him. So I had a case study, a case recently, and I wrote an article about it. I'm going to put the link to the article down here with the video, but this was a horse that had moved 3 months prior to a new barn, and then a few weeks into the stay at the new barn shown really unexpected and undesired behaviors that were really dangerous, actually. And it turns out that that horse never had a chance to establish himself in this new environment. He had never been in all the pastures that were there. He had never really explored the barn at his own on his own accord, and he had also never really established himself with the other horses that were there. And though those horses and him were not supposed to be turned out together, there was which was fine, there was no cohesion among the horses that all lived in this barn. And I think a lot of these things are really important to the horse. Horses, when they come into a barn, into a new barn, they like to sniff all the doors. They like to sniff the door handle to the tack room. They love to sniff, where the last pile of manure was picked up. They love to do these things. I always allowed my horses, when I still had like a more regular barn setup, to move around in it as if it's theirs, because it is, right? So think about it. If you put into a house and it says you can only be in the kitchen, you're never allowed to go into the living room, or you're never allowed to go to the bathroom downstairs or whatnot, that's limiting. That's giving you not a full experience. And so the horse feels very similar. So when you actually take a horse to a new barn or move him to a new place, literally go on a tour. Like, take the horse and show him things, and also let him explore in his own way. So if the horse says, I want to check that ladder out, and you go, why the ladder? There might be something important for the horse to see, or to sense, or to feel, or to smell. Big part of this is, of course, horses having whiskers, and a lot of us, I mean, I don't, but a lot of people trim the whiskers, which leaves the horse with a much more muted experience of the environment. So I'm a big fan of whiskers from the horse's point of view. But we don't even understand, I think, what might be valuable information to the horse, so that the horse can actually go after his little exploration. Yeah, okay, I got it. I got the smells, I got the sights, I got all the feels. I'm good. It's really important when we want our horses to settle in or to be comfortable in a new environment, to let them explore through their senses what is going on around here. Because, we try not to anthropomorphize our horses, but when you think about it, they are in many ways a lot like us, that they have senses, that they are curious about things, and that they have the capacity to learn. So why not give them the opportunity to do that as much as they can on their own accord, so that they feel more comfortable, just like we would feel more comfortable, coming into a new environment. So I think this is a really important topic that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I would love to hear from you if you allow your horse, or if you kind of go along with your horse to see where does he or she take you. What did you learn from your horse by going along with him or her in a new environment? And even if you are not going to a new environment, but you have never let your horse explore everything on your property, might be worth this afternoon to take them out and walk around and let them get a real sense of where they live, so they can have a much deeper connection to their place of living. All right, that's it for today. I hope you will reply and join me in on the discussion. Until next time.